Joaquin Nunez, and with me today is Republican Mayor for Knox County, Mr. Glenn Jacobs. Mr. Mayor, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
I wanted to start with this transition between Kane and Mayor Jacobs. Why did you decide to go into politics, and how this world welcomed you?
I've had a wonderful life. I grew up in the state of Missouri in a very rural area, and my family didn't have a whole lot. My dad was retired military and worked in factories and kind of kept us afloat. Mom was a homemaker. So we were okay, but we weren't exactly affluent by any stretch of the imagination. And I knew that when I grew up, I didn't want to work as hard as my mom and dad did, just to feel that sometimes you're living paycheck to paycheck. So for me, I thought that my pathway to success would be through sports. And I had some obstacles along the way. I was playing American football. It looked like I was going to play in the National Football League and hurt my knee. And that's how I got into professional wrestling. And from there, I mean, I just had a life which is unbelievable. I've been just so blessed. I've traveled the world and entertained millions of people, and provided a life for my family that I wouldn't have thought possible when I was a kid. So to me, it's just ensuring that my kids and my grandkids have opportunities like I had. What makes, to me, I believe what makes America so special and exceptional is that we have the freedom here to utilize our God-given gifts any way that we want. The only limitation is really your imagination. And you find something you're good at in a way that will benefit other people through the market, and you work hard, and there's no telling where you can go, what can happen to you. Here everyone has a chance. We call it the American dream. And I just want to make sure that the next generation, the American dream, is still there for them.
It is fun to be a mayor. I think it is what you expect it to be a mayor right now.
Yes, I mean, as far as my job, I'm the mayor of the county, which is very similar to what a city mayor does. It's just the structure's slightly different. Nevertheless, ultimately, I'm the person making a lot of the decisions about what happens in Knox County as far as with Knox County government.
Okay, and were you always a Republican?
Yes. Now I have some very strong libertarian leanings, such as your president there in Argentina does. But the neat thing about the Republican Party is that I think it's really coming back. It's finding its base once again. You think about people like Ronald Reagan and how popular he was, obviously, and the party kind of veered away from that for a while and dabbled in big government programs. And I think people are tired of that now, and they're tired of all of the endless wars overseas, the inflationary money printing, all these other things that we're seeing. So you see strong voices like Rand Paul and Mike Lee and others who are very libertarian in their thinking, and that they want small government. They want people to be able to run their own lives. And that's what I believe too. So I've always had that kind of, been within Republican circles, but also trying to pull everyone in the direction of liberty. And it's great to see that happening.
And were you persuaded before 2018 to run for office?
I never really wanted to run for political office. I didn't have an interest in doing that. Now, I was interested in politics and government because, like everyone else, I pay taxes, and seeing how especially the federal government would waste so much of that money was really infuriating to me. But I never really wanted to get that involved in the actual political process itself, or the government itself. And I just, I decided one day that I could stand on the outside and complain and gripe, or I could actually try to do some good. And that's why I decided to get into this position. For me personally, my career in WWE was coming to an end. I was entering my 50s, so I was no longer a young guy that could go out there and bounce around and do all this stuff that they're tremendous athletes do. And also, my predecessor who is now Congressman, Tim Burchett. He was term limited, so it was an open seat. And just strategically, it's always better to run for an open seat than against an incumbent. And Tim and I share a lot of the same political philosophy. I think I've done a lot of the same things that he would have done. So it was just a good place for me to step into.
Okay, and did you learn anything in the wrestling world that is useful to you today in your current position?
So, and people ask that question, and nothing really in the ring, okay, obviously. But everything anytime that you have a group of people working together, there is politics involved. There just is. And that's not only in government, it's in everything. And I had to learn to negotiate that. There's a lot of politics in WWE. You have a lot of different interests and sometimes different egos, and they're all pushing and trying to go different ways. And how do you convince people or persuade people that your idea is a good deal or a good idea, and kind of get everyone on the same page? That was one of the most important things that I learned, was how to get along with other people. So I believe that those interpersonal skills, sometimes they're called soft skills. I don't really like that term because I think that they're very, very important. But just your ability to get along with other folks, to be able to gain influence and wield influence. And when you think about power and political power, it's really all about influence, right? It's about being able to influence people and get them to be on your team. So that's something that I learned not only in WWE, but also I played sports my entire life. I played basketball. As I said, I played American football. So being able to be part of a team, and when necessary, to be in a leadership position, as far as getting the team to go in the direction that you think that they need to go in, that's something that I learned through my career, both in WWE and in sports.
Okay, and moving on to the presidential election, I know you support President Trump, but I wanted to know if you knew him personally before, like in the entertainment world.
Sure. Yeah. President Trump helped promote the first couple WrestleManias, which is WWE's big show of the year. They were held at his facility there, his casino and hotel in Atlantic City. He was also involved in the WrestleMania that we had. I think it's like 2000. Can't remember the exact years, 2005, something like that, in Detroit. It was the Battle of the Billionaires that featured President Trump and Vince McMahon, and the loser got their head shaved. So I might have met him in Detroit, but I can't remember. He was a big name back then with The Celebrity, I think, was on the air. So I'm The Apprentice. So he was a celebrity himself, but not to the level that he is now. But I've met him a couple times, actually, since he's left the presidency. And I've always been struck by just how friendly he is, and how just very gracious to everyone. The media portrays him as some monster or something like that, and he's nothing like that in real life.
Okay, and what do you think about the Biden administration and now the candidacy of Vice President Harris?
So, I actually don't know who's running the show right now. Unfortunately, with President Biden, we could tell that there is a serious cognitive decline happening. I'm very disappointed that our media has not done a better job of covering that. In fact, I think that they've literally been covering it up. I think that an important question for Vice President Harris is, what did she know and when did she know it? Literally, right after the debate between President Trump and former President Trump and President Biden, that night she was interviewed, and she said that she works with President Biden every day, that he's literally sharp as a tack, that world leaders come to him for counsel and advice and all those sort of things. Then 3 weeks later, he drops out, and obviously because he's having some serious issues when it comes to his mental functioning. We can see that just, unfortunately, anytime he's on TV. So I guess the question is, why did she never talk about that? I mean, that has put our country at risk and really the world at risk. You look at what's happening in the Middle East, and no one knows who's calling the shots at the White House. And because of that, you see Iran and Israel look like they're about to go to war, which will drag probably the rest of the world into that. That would have never happened if Donald Trump had been president. I think he would have put a stop to that whole situation very quickly. But right now, we're just getting run over by everybody. I don't think that we need to be going around the world trying to run the world as Americans. At the same time, we do have a lot of influence around the world. We do have a lot of soft power, and in situations like that, I think that through diplomacy, we could avert a major conflict in the Middle East. And my fear is that won't happen because the Biden administration is just so incompetent at this point.
And with VP Harris and Trump on the top of the ticket, what do you think voters will consider when they go to the polls in November?
Well, I'm hoping that people will think about the most important question in every election: are they better off now than they were 4 years ago? Mm-hmm. And I think that without exception, every American has to say I'm worse off. Really, everyone around the world, because of the diminished standing of America. But if you look at the inflation, I think our economy is going into recession. There's all sorts of warning lights flashing. You just look at some of the other issues that are going on, the crisis at our border, all of these things are a result of policies that have been implemented by the Biden administration. And Vice President Harris has to own at least some of that. Obviously, right, is in this honeymoon period, and she's the greatest thing ever. And I'm hoping that we'll move past that and get to the substantive issues of policy and have the policies of the previous 4 years been beneficial or detrimental to the American people. And I think the vast majority of American people would say that they've been hurt by these policies.
Okay, and last question. I don't know if you know former governor of Tennessee, Bill Haslam. He was, like you, mayor of Knox County for 8 years, and then he ran successfully for governor in 2011. Do you plan to follow in his steps in 2026?
I'm not really sure what I'm going to do at this point. I've been very blessed. I have a lot of options open to me. The most important thing is, where would I fit as far as where would my skills be best utilized? Would it be at a statewide level? Would it be somewhere else? Would it be outside of the realm of politics altogether? And I think a lot of those questions too are going to be answered with what happens in November. And we're all kind of looking at that, determining which path the country is going to take. Will we ascend again, or will we continue this decline? I'm certainly hoping that we'll get back on the ascension route. But until that happens, I don't think that anyone can really make a whole lot of firm decisions about anything as far as their careers and their lives go. It's been the honor of my lifetime to serve as mayor here in Knox County. It's just been a wonderful experience. I think that we have been able to do some things that have really helped our community. We just have a great place to live, first of all. So, just the wonderful people that live here, and trying to keep the government out of their lives as much as possible so that they can do all the great things that they do. But as far as your question, I'm interested in some various things, potentially a statewide race. It just depends on how things kind of shake out over the next several months.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.